Oh, I am a happy little bitch right now. My Giants won their first game. I like it. Keep it up, Big Blue. I hope to see you win many, many more for the rest of the season. But no more of those. Learn how to catch the damn ball. I don't want to see Eli get any more picks off of those goddamn tip passes. No more. Just catch the goddamn ball. But, yeah, very happy about that. Some of you may have been expecting a Glory by Honor 9 review from me, but I had this other idea for a video and I didn't have time to do both. I will say that Glory by Honor 9 was worth the money. It was pretty good. It didn't blow my socks off, but like I said, the tag match was more than worth the money itself. So check out the replay. If for nothing else, do it for that match. Kings of Wrestling versus World's Greatest Tag Team. Awesome, awesome match. Everything else was good. There was nothing really bad. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Roderick Strong, and I knew he was going to win the title, so I wasn't too thrilled with that, but there was nothing I could do about that. I knew that was going to happen. But yeah, I wanted to talk about long-term planning and storylines and how that can really help a show. And one of my problems with both WWE and TNA is that there's just no sense of want. When a pay-per-view comes up, and you've seen it in my videos and how I talk about this, there's nothing desirable on the shows, and I don't think that's a result of the wrestlers not doing their jobs. I think that's a result of the writing being just so bad and not a lot of planning going into their storylines. I think back and I look at Starrcade 1997. Yeah, Hogan Sting didn't deliver, but they made me want to see that match. WCW did a fantastic job of handling that feud all year long and making that the most desirable match they could offer, just based on their storyline presentation. I could do a whole nother video on how the match didn't deliver, but that's for another day. And I'm going to use Bound for Glory 2010 as an example here, because I don't think TNA put a lot of long-term thinking into this card. When I look at the card that they have, and I'm basing this off the spoilers, when I look at the card that they have set, and I look back to what they were doing 2 or 3 months ago, it doesn't fit. And it doesn't. And Bound for Glory is supposed to be the season finale to TNA. I said that last week, and it doesn't feel like that when I look at this card. And that's unfortunate. And, my God, you've got a three-way, Anderson, Angle, and Hardy for the title. I've already talked about my misgivings with the tournament and how I feel whatever match comes of it is going to feel random. And this feels random. You got, oh my God, you got a six-man tag involving Hulk Hogan, Sting, and Kevin Nash. Yippee, yippee, yippee. But you've got Samoa Joe and the Pope squeezed into this. How do they fit into this? It makes no sense. I'm going to explain why later. Brian Kendricks and EV2. Why? I don't know. Just shoehorning characters in there for no reason. And even something simple like Douglas Williams drops the X Division title to Jay Lethal on Impact. Why couldn't that be saved for Bound for Glory? That would have been a great match to have at Bound for Glory. Again, I'll explain why. I'm going to post a fantasy card of what I feel Bound for Glory should have looked like based on what TNA was doing 2 or 3 months ago. And I think it would have been a much more desirable card. Again, based on the television and the storylines that they were doing just a couple months ago. So, here you go. Okay, the Knockouts Championship match I didn't put too much thought into, and I don't think TNA is going to either. The story all year long basically has been the beautiful people versus the beautiful people. So I've got Angelina Love versus Tara. I don't think there's any other match they could do that would fit within the storylines that they're doing. At this point with the Knockouts, they're at a crossroads where they either need to rejuvenate it with new talent or just get rid of it entirely because there's just not a whole lot going on there that's interesting. Okay, Motor City Machine Guns defend the tag titles in either a gauntlet or a tag team turmoil match, or any top contender, quite frankly. London Brawling, Generation Me. The Guns are a very hot act right now, and they deserve to be featured on the show. But the major tag team storyline was concluded once they won the Best of 5 series over Beer Money. So any tag team title match they do on the show will be acceptable to some degree. According to the spoilers, they're doing Generation Me versus the Guns in an Ultimate X match. I'm fine with that. The Ultimate X has been overdone, much like it was in 2005, but other than that, I have no problem with that match. Guns deserve to be featured on the show, no doubt. Now, I do have a problem with this next one that they screwed up. Douglas Williams should have headed into Bound for Glory as X Division champion. He had been unbeaten for most of the year. He was the dominant champion of the X Division, and you had Jay Lethal, who was moving up the ranks of the heavyweights and beating heavyweight contenders, and even had a long feud with Ric Flair that got him featured on TV prominently. This should have been the X Division title match for Bound for Glory with Lethal winning the title. I cannot believe TNA screwed that one up. Okay, now we are into the real meat and potatoes of the card. This is a grudge match that I feel TNA was building up towards and would have made a fine addition to the Bound for Glory card, and that was the Pope D'Angelo De Niro versus Mr. Anderson. This was set up back in April or May when Mr. Anderson attacked the Pope, injured him, put him on the shelf, and once Pope made his return, they seemed to be teasing that these two were going to have a big showdown, and they could have built this up over the course of a few months. Unfortunately, when Rob Van Dam dropped the title, it seemed to screw a lot of people's storylines up, and these two especially. Mr. Anderson wound up in the main event, but Pope is just kind of directionless right now as his storyline kind of got kicked to the curb. I know they had the tournament match, it's No Surrender, but still, it didn't really fit with what I thought was their plan a couple of months ago. And again, Mr. Anderson, he kind of feels like the odd man out in the three-way. So why they dropped that match, again, I don't know. Next match, Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. No time limits or disqualifications. This was another one based off of something that TNA had done on Impact. Joe and Hardy had a match that ended in a time limit draw, and I thought, oh, well, if they build up a rematch with more animosity between the two, with the promise of a finish, that could be interesting and really exciting, and that would fit onto Bound for Glory as well. Again, they didn't do it. Hardy found his way into the main event, which I guess is an upgrade for him, but I'll talk in a little bit of how he doesn't really fit there either. And Samoa Joe, he's just been shoehorned into this six-man tag with Hogan and Nash and Sting and Jarrett and the Pope, and it just doesn't make any sense. And Abyss reveals the identity of them. I feel that Abyss doesn't need to have a match on Bound for Glory. This is his story. He's going to unveil who they are, and that's his attraction for the show. As TNA has it right now, he's going to be facing Rob Van Dam, which, if Rob Van Dam was so injured he had to drop the title, then why is he back in time for Bound for Glory before the tournament to determine who would hold the title in his absence hasn't even concluded yet? Again, doesn't really make sense. Abyss didn't need to have a match on the show. He just needed to come out at some point, reveal who they are, and they make their statement. And hopefully it would have come off well. But again, RVD dropping the title seemed to schmuck a lot of people up. So, moving on. Okay, this next one, TNA may have actually gotten right. I've already said before, I'm not a big fan of the EV2 versus Fortune storyline. I actually hate it. But this is one that TNA started, and it seems like they're actually going to see to the end at Bound for Glory, as this match has been signed, EV 2.0 versus Fortune. I don't know if these are going to be the exact participants, and that's what kind of scares me about what TNA has done. I have this horrible feeling that Brian Kendrick is going to get put into this, which, nothing against him, but he just doesn't fit into this at all whatsoever. And I'm also afraid that guys like Mick Foley and Ric Flair might be in it. They are actually having a match on the Live Impact, a last man standing match, and I gotta be honest with you, I hated that match in 2006, and I sure as hell don't want to see it now. So, don't put Ric Flair and Mick Foley in the ring. For the love of God, please. I have no desire to see it at all. Not at all. And let's go to the one that they really screwed up. Rob Van Dam versus Kurt Angle for the TNA World Heavyweight title. Okay, Rob Van Dam won the title in May, or April, somewhere around that time. And he was a very dominant champion. He beat every contender, and to the best of my recollection, I can only recall him losing one match. And that was on TV, and a lot of those get forgotten anyway. So he was a very credible World Heavyweight Champion from that aspect. And then you had Kurt Angle, who was doing his contender storyline, where he would go through all of the top 10 contenders one by one, and then eventually face the World Heavyweight Champion. The logical conclusion for that match for Kurt Angle should have been at Bound for Glory, and his opponent should have been Rob Van Dam, because Rob Van Dam, by that point, would have been a very credible, and would have been somewhat of a long-term champion. 5 months isn't an eternity, but it is a long time in this day and age. And because they didn't do this main event, it seemed like a lot of storylines got screwed up. We got Rob Van Dam wrestling Abyss in a match that shouldn't be taking place. If they did in the storyline that Rob Van Dam is now injured and can't be champion, then how is he wrestling on the show to determine the new champion? Again, doesn't make sense. You got Jeff Hardy placed into the main event because they need somebody there. You got Mr. Anderson placed in the main event because they don't know what else to do with him. And because Mr. Anderson got placed into this spot, Pope has no direction. And because Hardy got placed into that spot, Joe has nothing to do. So it's just this horrible trickle-down effect where just messing up this one match kind of screwed up a lot of character directions and a lot of storylines. Now, the point of this video isn't just to be mean or negative, although I do enjoy that. But I just want to make the point that long-term planning and storylines can be really beneficial in any form of entertainment. It's not just wrestling, and the wrestling shows aren't doing it anymore, but my God, TV shows like Lost in 24, those shows clearly had a plan for their storylines, and they planned out entire seasons. And I realize in wrestling you can't really do that because there are a lot of things that can come up that can slow you down, but looking at Bound for Glory, there's no reason why the card I just posted shouldn't have happened. Again, not based on what I would have done personally, because personally I don't think I can do this very well. I don't think I'm much of a creative genius, but I can think out these storylines that you presented to me better than you can, apparently. That's strange. And I had my problems with WrestleMania 26 too, but I started doing videos way too late for that, so I'm not going to talk about that now. But yeah, if you plan out your storylines and build things up over a long period of time, it'll mean more when you do the big payoff. Perfect example was Lockdown 2008. People thought that, oh, we'll just plug Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe into this match and it will work. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that they had built that match up over the period of 4 months, and they kept them away, kind of kept them away from each other for that period of time, and you knew that was going to be the destination point, Lockdown 08. And the match, from what I heard, I don't know if this is true, but they did larger than the normal TNA buy rate. It was like, well, they made the match feel more important over a longer period of time. And the pay-per-views in between, like the B pay-per-views, they don't need to be the most phenomenal thing ever, but they need to be the next chapter of the story leading into whatever the big payoff is going to be. Going back to 1998, if you look at all those shows, okay, Fully Loaded 98, the main event had already been set for SummerSlam. That it was going to be Austin and The Undertaker. But at Fully Loaded, they had Austin and Undertaker in a tag match against Mankind and Kane to further build the animosity between the two of them and whether or not they'd be able to get along as partners. That's the next chapter in the story that you're trying to tell. And I don't see too much of that in wrestling in this day and age. And that's unfortunate, and it makes the pay-per-views feel less important. But, hey, what can you do?